world's most amazing videos. When a raging inferno engulfs a chemical plant, superheated fuel tanks explode. And it's terror in the streets when a speed freak in a dump truck plows through an intersection. Plus, terrified residents flee when an 8-story building crashes to the ground. Then, a wannabe daredevil's career hits a wall. And later, a race car erupts in flames, trapping the driver in a ferocious fireball. These are the incredible true life stories of people who face their most desperate hour and live to tell about it. Everything you are about to see is real. Real people, real danger, real excitement. Get ready to experience the thrill of a lifetime. You are about to witness the world's most amazing videos.
Las Vegas, Nevada. Malu Brace is about to get the thrill of a lifetime.
There you go.
He's bungee jumping from a platform rising 17 stories above a hotel pool.
Yeah, he's digging it.
On his second jump, the adrenaline junkie decides to amp up the stakes and take the plunge backwards.
3, 2, 1. See you later.
Yeah, bro. Good looking jump.
But something goes very wrong. The bungee cord is wrapped around Malu's neck. Now he's being strangled. With each bounce, the steel spring tightens its deadly grip.
Bring your knees up.
Malu desperately fights to free himself. But it's no use.
Hey, let go.
His body hangs lifeless. Watch again. As Malu rebounds, the cord forms a loop that becomes a noose around his neck. In a matter of seconds, he is choked unconscious. Malu is immediately pulled to the ground. Incredibly, he's alive.
On the first rebound, the momentum of my body kind of leaned me backwards, so as soon as I got up to the top of my jump, the cord was right behind me, making a noose, ready for me to put my head back right into it. Next thing I know, I was being hung by a bungee cord.
Malu tugs with all his might to untangle the lethal cord.
Second rebound up, I almost got it off. It was halfway up my face. It was a little too late to where it just ripped my face apart, the inside of my mouth. It was real bloody.
Before he can save himself, he blacks out.
My life passed before my eyes. Everything important seemed not important. I was in my own world and I didn't even know what was going on or who I was or where I was. And am I going to survive this?
3, 2, 1.
On this trip to Vegas, Malu beat the odds when he gambled with his life and cheated death.
21 feet.
Manila, Philippines. Panicked families run for their lives. Their high-rise apartment building is beginning to tilt. An urgent evacuation is underway when suddenly men, women, and children are still running for safety when the foundation gives way. The building rips through power lines, threatening to ignite the entire neighborhood. The tower finally comes down in a massive pile of pulverized concrete and steel. Hundreds are now homeless. Their possessions gone forever. Yet amazingly, no one is killed or even injured. Shoddy construction is blamed for the disaster. Criminal charges are filed against the building's owner. He's lucky they don't include murder. La Paz, Bolivia. A tense hostage standoff. Behind that wooden door, a man is holding his wife captive and threatening to kill her. Police know they have little time. Something makes them run for cover. But only for a moment. Again, they rush the door. Big mistake. Here's what scared them. The hiss of gas from an open propane tank. The homicidal husband has turned his apartment into a bomb. When the sound subsides, the cops assume the coast is clear. Fiery blast hurls the officers through the air onto the ground, a floor below. They drag the deranged husband from the rubble. His wife is clearly in shock, but alive. The ambush leaves several officers with third-degree burns. This is one explosive domestic dispute they're fortunate to survive. Western Missouri. Things seem quiet at the liquor store, but there's been a rash of robberies in the area. Clerk Stefan Eads knows he could be next. Then, 3 men burst in. One takes aim. A second look shows Stefan facing the gun barrel at point-blank range. It also shows him grab his own gun and fire first.
When he put the gun in my face, it was even terms. It was either him or me.
Stefan's been hit. Still, he manages to return fire. He calls for help, knowing he may only have minutes to live. A large bloodstain soaks his shirt. Stefan's shot straight through his lung.
Every time I took a breath, blood squirted out of my chest. I had just gotten my EMT license, so I was very aware of the fact that I did have a punctured lung. I grabbed some paper towels. I needed to stay as calm as I possibly could.
Stefan waits 5 agonizing minutes for help to arrive.
The thought had crossed my mind that I could have died.
The gunmen are captured. 2 are serving life sentences for attempted murder.
Well, I feel very lucky to be alive. I mean, this just gave me a new outlook on life.
Up next, a renegade driver crashes a stolen dump truck. Then he's cornered by a bystander with a bat. Plus, a chopper packed with mountain climbers slams into the ice and erupts in fire. And a ferocious gust of wind launches a kite surfer into the sky, then drops him like a rock. Later, a race car driver is engulfed in flames and burning alive. When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Phoenix, Arizona. A reckless fugitive terrorizes the streets in a stolen dump truck.
Somewhere and then bails out or gets
A news chopper tracks the pursuit. Even this veteran traffic reporter can't believe his eyes.
get him. Here he goes, center lane, red light. This is serious here. Oh, Oh, look at this guy.
Nothing can stop this madman. The gas tank is full. His joyride could last for hours.
This guy's out here threatening everybody's life with a dump truck. Oh, look at that, man. A truck nearly hit him.
Even police cruisers are no match against 13 tons of rolling metal thunder.
Look at this. Look at that. Oh, man. Almost head on with a police cruiser. Oh, man. He's trying to hit the squad cars.
The deranged driver weaves in and out of traffic, hell-bent on escape.
Now, I hate to say what's going to happen if he hits somebody because...
Police are helpless. They can only watch as the rampaging truck speeds on a collision course with disaster.
Red light, and he's going to go right through the intersection. Just,
The truck rips through a sedan, then slams into a light pole and screeches down the street. The suspect is still raging. He climbs out of the wreckage and runs.
He's running. He's running.
Bystander Doug Click is waiting to take him down.
I told him to lay down, and when I told him to do that, he pulled the bolt cutters out from underneath his shirt.
He's running.
But Doug has a weapon of his own, a baseball bat.
It was game on, and he told me he was going to kill me, and I kind of smiled at him and said, no, I'm going to kill you. He took a swing at me with the bolt cutters, and he was still putting up a fight, and I started hitting him in the head a little bit with the baseball bat then, and that's when the police pulled up.
It takes 5 officers to subdue the crazed suspect.
He's still kicking on the ground.
Luckily, the people in the car that he hit walk away without serious injury. This reckless flight from the law lasts 45 heart-stopping minutes, finally ending with a bang, a beating, and 16 years behind bars. Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. 22 mountain climbers board a helicopter bound for base camp. They load barrels of kerosene and fuel. They don't realize the chopper is overloaded. Their friends watch helplessly as the 17-ton helicopter struggles to lift off. Then, a terrifying sight. All the climbers are trapped inside. Now the threat is the leaking kerosene and fuel. If they don't get out fast, they'll burn alive. As they scramble from the wreckage, the chopper bursts into flames. Two passengers can't make it out in time and suffer burns. The pilot's leg is broken. The crash is blamed on the heavy payload. Severely weighted down, the tail rotor clips the ice and is sheared off, dooming the chopper and all on board. But remarkably, no lives are lost in this ordeal of ice and fire. Slovenia, Eastern Europe. Motorcycle speed demons find sick thrills on an intersection of busy highways. It's Russian roulette on a makeshift oval track. The winner must be fast, reckless, and lucky. But one racer's luck is about to run out. Watch as he rounds that curve. He sees the white van, panics, dumps his bike, and skids across the highway straight into the path of a speeding car. He's crushed beneath both sets of wheels. car bounces and bounces again as its tonnage rolls over motorcycle and man. Biker and bike are separate heaps in the fast lane. Finally, an ambulance arrives. His deadly game of cat and mouse ends with a race to the hospital.
Coming up, a speedboat hits a sandbar and flips end over end. And a rampaging bull unleashes its fury on horrified spectators. Then later, a photographer gets slammed in the pits. When the world's most amazing videos returns.
Spokane, Washington. Jet Sprint boat drivers gun for the #1 spot in the world. Racers snake through a maze of turns at speeds up to 100 miles an hour. The man to beat is veteran Kevin Burke. Kevin and his partner are running strong. But danger lurks just below the surface. On a sharp turn, the boat digs too deep. Watch again. Kevin roars out of a turn and hits a shallow sandbar that sends his boat flying. A piece of the track follows in its wake. The boat slams on its side and flips a second time, landing with jolting force. Rescue crews rush frantically toward the trapped racers. Kevin and his co-pilot are banged up, but okay. The roll bars saved them from serious injury. The team is cleared to return to racing. They'll get another chance to compete in the sport where danger is always around the bend. Tacoma, Washington. Super stock race cars roar around the track. Two drivers collide, triggering a pileup. It's only the second lap, and that means everyone's gas tanks are loaded with explosive fuel. Several cars ignite in a thundering fireball. Three drivers are trapped inside the inferno, and there's no way to get to them. Someone sprays a fire extinguisher. It has little effect. Suddenly, one man dashes through the wall of flames. Then a second driver, Ken Longley, runs for his life, still on fire.
The flames were coming up on my left side really bad. They was really, really hot.
But it may be too late for the third driver. That's Mike Easley crawling from the wreckage, his body engulfed in flames. He's burning alive. Mike drops and rolls right into a pool of high-octane fuel. Photographer John Bodwell is trackside.
I could feel the heat, and I imagine the pain this guy's in by all the screaming that he's doing, and was fully engulfed in flames like inside of a fireplace.
John takes action. He grabs a fire extinguisher.
I knew if I didn't do something, this guy was going to burn to death.
But then the ultimate horror. The extinguisher runs out.
It was like, I just tried everything I could do, and now I failed, and now this guy's gonna die.
John comes back with a fresh extinguisher. By now, Mike is on fire a full minute and a half. When the smoke clears, Mike barely clings to life. It burns over 50% of his body, yet somehow he survives.
I told myself that I wasn't gonna die, that I had family to take care of, people who love me.
When he saw the first flames, Mike thought he would die.
A fireball hits me in the face. I'm dead in the water right there. I got up, all I see is panic.
Mike loses hope with each passing second inside the murderous wall of flames.
When I saw people actually running away from me, my life is done. I am done.
What started as a minor accident nearly ended in disaster.
As far as I'm concerned, it was an act of God that both of us survived.
But Mike and the other survivors proved that fire is no match for a burning will to live. Champaign County, Illinois. Two friends, Norman and Orlando, get set to skydive over the heartland. The door opens, but then raw terror. Orlando's chute is tangled on the plane's tail wing. His body whips violently against the fuselage. Norman can only watch.
When I saw him hitting the airplane, I was just hoping that he's still okay, he's not unconscious. I was afraid for Orlando's life.
As he's about to jump, Orlando's chute deploys too early. Instantly, he's sucked out of the plane. Now he could break his neck, or the chute could snap the wing and send the aircraft into a tailspin.
My thoughts were, cut away, cut away, cut away, because I'm just looking at the airplane at the tail and I see Orlando hitting the airplane. The parachute is breaking in pieces.
Orlando has one chance. Pull the cutaway cord and pray that his reserve chute isn't damaged. He cuts loose and plummets towards Earth. Fortunately, the reserve chute opens. Moments later, this hellish nightmare is over. Orlando's in one piece, but as the horrifying ordeal sinks in, he breaks down.
Once I was on the ground and I realized what actually had happened, I started to shake, you know. Then I became scared.
Lucky for Orlando, he didn't panic when his life was on the line. Or this jump could have been his last. Oaxaca, Mexico. An enraged bull carries a rider out of the ring and breaks right through the corral fence. The impact crushes the rider's leg. He hobbles, helped out of danger by the other cowboys. He's safe, but not the crowd. The furious beast barrels into the stands, demolishing an entire section of seats. A dozen people crash to the ground. One man jumps for his life. A woman is nearly gored. In seconds, the animal turns the grandstand into kindling. Finally, wranglers control the angry bull. These fans will be talking for years about the day excitement turned to terror when the bull turned on them.
Next, a runaway plane flies out of control, and no one can stop it. Then, an extreme skier somersaults off a cliff and takes a bone-crushing plunge down the mountain. And later, a stuntman on a speeding bicycle hits the ramp, but misses the mark. When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Australia. An air show takes a frightening turn when an ultralight plane flies off without its pilot. The out-of-control aircraft heads straight for the crowd. The runaway plane plows into teenager Mandy Radford. Grandfather watches in horror.
She wasn't moving. It struck her terribly hard. I was frightened that she was dead.
But rescue is impossible. The plane seems to have a mind of its own. It bears down on Mandy for a second strike.
It lined my granddaughter up again. The plane turned and went straight for her.
Her grandfather in the black coat throws himself between Mandy and the killer plane. His body acts as a shield and protects his precious granddaughter from a certain death blow. The maniacal machine spins wildly for another minute. It only stops when it careens into a parked plane. Mandy is rushed to the hospital with a head injury. Grateful to be alive.
I'm thankful that I've got a extremely brave grandfather who did what he did for me.
A malfunctioning gear caused this bizarre accident. But it was a grandfather's unflinching courage that spared Mandy a gruesome death. Busan, South Korea. 5,000 rice farmers march on Parliament to protest a trade bill. They're angry, and this is a powder keg just waiting to explode. There's a clash with police. Without warning, the farmers turn their flagpoles into weapons. Now it's a riot. Police are driven back. They retreat and take refuge atop buses. They break out the water cannons. The enraged farmers refuse to back down. One man hurls a pole like a spear. Cops fire back with tear gas. The police are sorely outnumbered. They take up their shields and attack. The makeshift bats can't compete against full combat gear. After dozens of arrests and injuries, the mayhem subsides. Rioters return to their rice paddies, defeated. But not before their peaceful protest turns to a brutal display of violence. Valdez, Alaska. Downhill racers dazzle the crowd at the World Extreme Skiing Championship. Bridget Mead is a front-runner in today's competition, but the slopes are treacherous. She's just starting her run when suddenly she loses her skis and plunges toward catastrophe. Torso slams into a jagged rock. But there is nothing to stop Bridget's gut-wrenching fall.
Dude, we need serious help up there.
After 4,000 brutal feet, Bridget's dizzying downward slide comes to a stop.
Oh my God.
Her battered body lies eerily still, apparently lifeless.
There's no movement right now.
The ski patrol rushes to her aid. If she's alive, they must act quickly to get her off the mountain. With no time to spare, Bridget is airlifted to a nearby hospital. Remarkably, she survives. The trouble begins here. A rock strips her skis, triggering the harrowing fall. But Bridget's luck isn't all bad. She's carried to a fork in the slope. To the left is a deadly drop off a sheer cliff. Mercifully, Bridget tumbles to the right, sparing her certain death. Bridget's plunge lasts 75 punishing seconds. Her back is broken. Miraculously, she is recovered now and is even back skiing. But after the horrific fall that nearly claimed her life, she's given up racing for good.
Oh my God. Oh, oh no. Oh, Jesus.
Coming up, a couple is caught in the destructive path of an unrelenting freeway pileup. Then, a kite surfer is swept into the sky, and there's only one way down. And tanks filled with chemicals explode in a toxic inferno. As the world's most amazing videos continues.
Los Angeles, California. Just before dawn. A van is stalled in the fast lane of a busy freeway. And that's a recipe for disaster. The empty vehicle gets blasted by a Mustang at nearly 70 miles an hour. The force of the collision rockets the van several hundred feet. Inside the Mustang, a young couple is too stunned to get out.
Paramedics are coming!
A news cameraman calls for help.
Multiple injuries. I need CHP ASAP.
But the couple's nightmare has just begun. The car swerves to avoid their Mustang and skids out of control. 5 cars are now involved in the pileup, and the man and the woman are still sitting ducks. The cameraman waves his camera light as a warning to oncoming traffic. But it doesn't work. The couple is battered in another violent collision. The Mustang and the van are totaled. Incredibly, the young woman suffers the night's only injury, a sprained ankle. Everyone walks away because this road was paved with a little luck. Oahu, Hawaii. The World Ocean Games are underway. The hottest new event is kite surfing, a daring combination of surfing and kite flying. Extreme surfers ride the waves and soar through the skies. It's a high-flying sport, sometimes too high. Eric Eck catches an updraft. He loses his board and is hoisted into the air. Eric's too high to let go. Now he's at 250 feet with no way out. What goes up must come down. The winds die. Eric plummets. He crashes hard, but survives the terrifying flight.
I could feel just this rush of hot air rushing up around me. And once it started going up, then it sucked me with it.
All Eric can do is hang on.
There's no doubt in my mind I'm gonna die. And I had no doubt about that, being that high in the air on a kite.
Falling fast, he's hurled toward a ridge.
The bottom just drops out. And the ground is rushing up towards me. Fear didn't really hit me until I actually started coming down and realized, hey, maybe I have a chance to live.
He braces for impact and hits the ground with brutal force. Amazingly, Eric only tears a few ligaments in his back. A minor trade-off for the wildest and deadliest ride of his life. Bogota, Colombia. Race day. The driving rain makes a dangerous sport all the more perilous, especially for this track photographer. The driver can barely see his way into the pits. Photographer Edgar Ospina raises his camera for a shot in the distance, a shot that nearly takes his life. The race car clips Ospina on the right leg. He's unconscious, a casualty of pit row. Ospina is taken to the hospital with a fractured collarbone and broken nose. This cameraman gets his shot, but pays a painful price. Fort Worth, Texas. A 5-alarm fire ravages a chemical plant. Clouds of smoke are visible 25 miles away. But it's not the fire that's the real danger. It's the threat of an explosion. The tanks are filled with 4,000 gallons of toxic chemicals. Flames build, and suddenly, one tank blows. The first explosion blows out a wall. Workers rush to evacuate. Then, an even larger blast. The entire plant is consumed by a massive fireball. Even with the incredible devastation, only 4 people are hurt. Huntington Beach, California. An amateur daredevil attempts a stunt on a public street. Paul Fernandez is going to jump his bike onto the roof of an apartment building. Or maybe not. A van tows Paul toward the ramp at 60 miles an hour.
Basically, I knew something was wrong as soon as I let go of that rope.
He bashes into the wall and smacks the ground. Paul is badly hurt, but with all the cameras rolling, this tough guy is not about to show it.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
All right, we're out of here. Okay, here.
If this reckless amateur ever hopes to turn pro, he'll have to work on his timing.
We switched drivers at the last minute, about 10, 15 feet before my takeoff. The van had definitely lost some speed and wasn't going as fast as I thought I should be going. When I knew things were going wrong, I knew definitely there was going to be some kind of injuries. Once my bike actually made contact with the roof, I can't explain the excruciating pain. Once I fell backwards from the roof, I landed on my back.
Paul winds up with several broken ribs, 2 sprained wrists, and a gnarly gash on his leg.
Just another flesh wound, brother. I didn't seek medical attention. That's not my style.
Maybe Paul's style is not all it's cracked up to be.
I was very lucky to get away with what little injuries I did get away with. No doubt in anybody's mind that I could have died doing this stunt. No doubt.
These are the amazing stories of people caught in life and death situations who made it out alive. Join us next time for more of the world's most amazing videos.